Prime Minister Modi is at the India Pavilion at the Hannover Fair. Let's cut across live now to visuals that are coming in from Germany. All right, just a short while back, Prime Minister Modi, along with German Chancellor Angela Merkel, inaugurated the India Pavilion. Around 400 companies participating from India, displaying their services and wares. That's the India Pavilion there. You can see one of the stalls there set up by Punjab. In fact, the Prime Minister has promised ease for Indian investors. Let me go across now to Deputy Editor Smita Sharma for more details. Smita, what is it in terms of tangibles that India is willing to offer to investors?
Well, look, there is a lot of work to be done, of course, back home. It is, not a secret, because especially in terms of India's own investment climate, it needs to ensure investors that there will be, in fact, no cases where retrospective taxation will be done, that the taxations across states, because remember, India, of course, given the federal economy that we are, every time investors come in, they have to deal with different authorities at the federal level, at the states level. So how can the Indian government really look at smoothing out, in fact, this entire process? Can it offer single window clearances? Can it ensure that the Babus, in fact, work of files much faster? These are assurances, in fact, that the Prime Minister seems to be giving out to the investment community. But remember, the opposition here in India will be questioning all of these claims, saying that these are claims at the moment and much needs really to be done on the ground to ensure that all of these words are translated into action before the investors come in. But he will be, in fact, looking at greater outsourcing deals when he goes to Siemens. Remember when he went to Airbus, which is another of those European iconic, in fact, success stories. They promised to increase their outsourcing, outsourcing into India to the tune of $2 billion. So these are specifically the kind of things that Mr. Modi would be hoping for, at least.
Absolutely, Smita, and we've seen a great push there for Make in India. It's very close to the Prime Minister himself. We've seen the focus completely on that aspect.
Absolutely. And, in Germany and India, in fact, there are German companies which have been working in India already. There are, in fact, a couple of them who have been operating over the years. But it's not just German, it's also the French companies that have been working in India. There are other issues, while, of course, one does not really know how to define a smart city. There are various ways of defining it. India is also looking at trying to learn all that urban smart city technology driven initiatives from Germany. Mr. Modi, in fact, will be visiting in Berlin, of course, because from the Hannover Messe, where our viewers can see him, in fact, taking that walk around the Indian Pavilion along with the German Chancellor. In Berlin is where the official talks will be held. The official, in fact, military honors to welcome him will be given. And also that stress on larger, in fact, defense cooperations, defense co-production, in which are the areas where German firms can really come in and manufacture in India.
Smita, you said the focus will shift to Berlin today, later in the day. Are we expecting any big announcements?
There would be a couple of MOUs and agreements, but remember, the big ticket announcements, in fact, would be when that strategic summit level meeting happens towards the end of the year, which is the annual dialogue. But what will also be interesting, of course, is that meeting with the Indian diaspora, and perhaps something that the UK partners, or the Congress in particular, would be looking at will be that meeting between Mr. Modi and Subhash Chandra Bose's, in fact, Netaji's grand nephew,
right.
Keeping in mind the India Today, in fact, that big revelation about how Prime Minister Nehru had and his government had snooped upon Netaji's skin between 1948 and 68, 16 of those 20 years that PM was in Mr. Nehru himself, and the IB was reporting to him. So the Congress here already questioning, in fact, calling it a deliberate leak and questioning the motive behind these leaks. So there will be, of course, some politics that will play out back home as well.
Also, Smita, Subhash Chandra Bose's grandnephew, Surya Bose, when he spoke with Headlines yesterday, was saying that he's just part of the reception, and so far he hasn't got time with the Prime Minister to raise this issue particularly. He said that he wants just a couple of minutes with the Prime Minister. Can you help us understand what these receptions are like? Do people actually get time to speak with the Prime Minister on a one-to-one basis?
Well, it depends. They have differed from place to place. I remember, in fact, when I was with the Prime Minister in Japan in August of last year, outside the Indian embassy in Tokyo, there was such an Indian crowd. And a lot of times we see this Indian diaspora, in fact, standing there chanting Mr. Modi's name, and security wouldn't allow them to come inside the gate because it was only, in fact, a select audience that was supposed to interact with the Modi. But eventually the Prime Minister actually went outside the gate, breaking the security barricades, interacted with them. In Myanmar, I remember, in fact, the Prime Minister, he came in, he gave his speech, and he went around that entire room where people were standing in a very disciplined order, and he shook hands and greeted them with a namaste. But as far as, of course, the Netaji's skin is concerned, well, I wouldn't really be surprised if they do pull aside of a couple of minutes while they are in that room together, Maha.
All right, Smita, many thanks for giving that perspective and details of the Prime Minister's visit to Germany. Those are visuals that came in earlier from Hannover of the inauguration of the India Pavilion, which was a joint one by Prime Minister Modi and German Chancellor Angela Merkel.